Will a second stimulus package get approved by tomorrow? Hey, good evening, everybody. This is LALATE, and thank you for joining me for evening's LALATE. This one's about the check, and as you know, Steve Mnuchin has vowed that a second stimulus package will be approved by tomorrow, Friday. But is that a lot of hogwash, and is that sort of the consistent behavior of certain people to really not understand the severity and the confusion of the situation? It seems to be the latter. Here are the latest updates about the second stimulus check. We go into Friday evening with no indication that a vote is coming within 24 hours. Less than a day after Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump, said it would happen. But what's going on across the board? It seems that no one in this group, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, can get their act together. They literally have no concept of the severity, the confusion, and the elements that they have to get done. First, the check. If you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you are lined up to get a check, whether you are a dependent or a non-dependent. The amount is still up for debate. Non-dependents are lined up to get $1,200 both under the Republican and the Democratic proposal. That's great news. The second great news is that the time of delivery based upon an actual approval of the bill, which hasn't happened yet, would be mid-August, also really good. And that the type of delivery would be the manner in which you usually get your benefits. And if you're not on benefits, the same way. That if you pay your taxes and the IRS has a banking account on file, it would come that way. If they don't, then it's by paper check a little bit later in August. The amount of the dependents, this channel has been reporting that Republicans are now more likely to agree to $1,200 for all dependents. Across the board, that would be great news because adult dependents did not get a first stimulus check. They weren't eligible for them. But then there's everything else that has been really a hot mess this week. Ultimately, the second stimulus check is part of a big package, and that big package has a lot of stuff that shouldn't be in there, and a lot of stuff that's not in there, and a lot of stuff that Republicans think they put in there, but did not put in there, which causes the rest of us to think, what the hell's wrong with them? Who introduces a bill on Monday after 3 months of waiting around and going on vacation? And then by Tuesday, Wednesday, and yet again today, Republicans from the White House to the president, to Steve Mnuchin, to Mitch McConnell, claim that there are things in their bill that are not in there, and they claim that the absence of those items in the bill does better than the Democrats that do have something in their bill. Then there's the Democrats that still sit back and wonder why America's hurting after they failed to give them multiple checks the first time. And here we're sitting around in late July, and the Democrats again are not giving multiple checks once again. There's a failure of both parties to do anything for the American public in a bill that is filled with a lot of stuff that shouldn't be in there, like a $3 billion federal building that has nothing to do with COVID-19 relief, more bailouts to restaurants that haven't had enough food fed into their mouths the first time around, more pork for airlines that today was slammed by the Treasury Secretary after they got billions of dollars on the first stimulus package to be given to their employees, didn't give it to their employees, fired their employees, and now are back for another round of money in their pockets. It's causing a lot of people to wonder, does anyone know what they're doing over there? Or are they literally just collecting a check and going to lunch every day and looking like they're working? It's causing people to think it's the latter. Today, both bills went up for a vote, but literally were just that. There were two individuals who said, hey, let's vote on this. Of course, no one voted on anything because no one had agreed to anything. In fact, no one's even talking anything. In a time in which we are all working or trying to work electronically from home, whether it's Zoom or chat or something like that, Nancy Pelosi's story this afternoon was she couldn't negotiate because she was in Atlanta. Do they not have telephones in Atlanta? So Nancy Pelosi was attending the wonderful service of Representative Lewis, who was laid to rest in a beautiful ceremony today. But her excuse about why the Democrats couldn't negotiate the bill was she's out of town. Apparently, you can't use phone or laptop or anything while you're out of town. Then there's the president, who seems to not understand anything from his left shoe to his right shoe today. He said that he is trying to help Americans with eviction moratoriums more than the Democrats. Well, explain to me how you're doing that, President, because it's not in your bill. And two of your leading economic advisors, Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow, were on Morning News on Sunday saying that they are helping Americans with eviction moratoriums. But when they debuted their bill on Monday, it wasn't in there. So how are you helping someone with something that isn't written in a bill? It wasn't a one-time occurrence. This happened. Later today, Mitch McConnell, who, I will get to more in a second, said that it is time for an emergency action for the American public and we need to pass an eviction moratorium. Well, Mitch, you also don't have an eviction moratorium in your bill. And yet, a week ago, you told America that you spent 3 weeks drafting this bill. Did you not realize in those 3 weeks you don't have an eviction moratorium in your bill? The problems are not just eviction moratoriums. FPUC is a system that is so lined up to deliver $600 to people's pockets this week. Can deliver to people's pockets this week, but is not. And so now 23 million Americans are not with employment benefits that they are owed and due from the federal government after working, not sitting on their butts like Mitch McConnell liked to portray them, or being disparaged by Mr. McConnell with words like welfare state and getting rich on unemployment benefits. That 23 million Americans are now without that benefits. And guess what? The Republicans are proposing a system that by September 1, antiquated computer systems of states are supposed to do some difficult mathematical calculation based upon financial numbers they don't have access to. They have told the Republicans, we can't do it, we don't have computers for it, and our computers can't make the mathematical calculation. So what's going on here? Does simply no one know what they're doing, or do they really not care? Over the 900 comments to this morning's Morning LALATE video, which a lot of people said, you look really tired. Well, tonight I'm not tired. Tonight I'm revved up. They overwhelmingly had the same question. What's going on with this group, both parties? You seem to not be able to do anything of any sort, comprehensive or coherently. And when we ask you for help, you aren't there. Gina says, don't complain about not having shoes. Some people don't have feet. William, I have to say $1,200 is not enough. It's not enough. Catherine, working together and helping Americans that are in need, put yourself in America's positions. They simply don't care. They really don't care. Mitch McConnell literally is either senile, as some viewers have actually asked, or can't get his story straight by the time of the day. Yesterday, 24 hours ago, he said that he was going to physically block any vote on any bill unless he had his token employer liability insurance clause in there. More about that in a second. And then this afternoon, he said, you know what, we have to hurry up and issue an emergency order for employment benefits. Now, let me digress for a second. There's Congress that's been a hot mess, the White House that's been a hot mess, but what about the Treasury? A lot of people were DMing me and sending me tweets at LALATE and LALATE_ on Instagram and saying, what's going on with the Federal Reserve? They should be ashamed of them as well. Jerome Powell in May was asked by a congressional House committee, what type of money did you delegate for COVID-19 relief? In May, he said billions of dollars had been dedicated just by the Federal Reserve for COVID-19 relief to be sent to the U.S. citizens in time of emergency. He was then asked, where is that money? Show me the money, Jerome. He said it's still sitting in our bank. he was then asked, why don't you send it out? We have not decided whether or not to send it out. Then he was asked, whose decision or what do you need to send it out? He says, we could send it out right now. It's our money. It's our decision. We don't need congressional approval. We don't need White House approval. We can send out the money. Well, Jerome Powell, if you're watching this video, send out the money. What are you doing sitting on all these billions of dollars you've dedicated for this situation, and you haven't sent out a single damn penny? All that Jerome Powell has done has been literally nothing. He reduced interest rates this morning to nearly 0% to stimulate the economy, which is not going to stimulate anything. From March, before this channel even launched, till about 4 weeks ago, he touted this loan program and then eventually launched it after, weeks of delay, and completely admitted that no one wanted it because it was a ridiculous loan program that required a minimum $250,000 entrance loan amount. So there's the Federal Reserve doing nothing for the American people as well. Linda, so many people need it now. I wish they'd try and live up to what most people have to live on. The truth is that they couldn't do it. Linda Tornes, we need the money now. We're all struggling. But does Congress realize that? Disabled Beauty, being an adult dependent on someone's tax return doesn't mean we have ADD. It means I have bills and I still have payments. I love that comment. The Republicans have not explained why their bill introduced on Monday pays adult dependents $500, as though adult dependents don't have more bills than other people, as though adult dependents don't spend more money. The fact that you're a dependent on someone's tax return doesn't mean you are anything more or less of a person in spending or consuming or being billed on a regular basis. It's just that you're a dependent. Here's an example. You can have an 18-year-old freshman at college who's spending, $3,000 a semester on books. I don't even know what they are now. They could be a lot more. $5,000 on clothes every semester. And maybe he has his car at college. He could be spending $100 a week in gas. The federal government thinks that, or the Congress thinks that dependent who's an adult doesn't spend more and doesn't need more stimulus than a 16-year-old. He actually needs a lot. It's simply baffling. Glove Man, good update. They need to pass emergency bills ASAP. Geraldo Rivera, that's the actual screen name. They don't have no money for us. They just send another spaceship up. How many millions does that cost? Barbara, they will eventually have to get this right. Keep your spirits up. Cynthia, Republicans are not happy with this president. Guess what? The American people are not happy with Congress, inspired by the Queen. Let's get some rest. We need to. Oh, this mess is over. Melinda, what a surprise. The government once again is helping big business and the health of the American people. Really, really helping out big business in the second bill as well. I'm really liking the morning updates. You usually have to wait until late afternoon to get the reliable information from you, LLA. Thank you. Well, thank you. Cheryl Mills, we're heading for another Great Depression. If something isn't done soon, recurring checks would be the best response. Very, very well said, Cheryl. Earlier today, I detailed really the situation economically. And the Congress has these economic data. It's not like I'm the only one reading this economic data. 23 million Americans need unemployment benefits right now. They had them discontinued last week. 40% of the American citizens are facing eviction or foreclosure. Unemployment numbers are in again, jobless numbers. The 19th consecutive week of unemployment claims over 1 million. It stood at, I think, 1.43 million today. We have never seen that number since the Great Depression. Eviction numbers are something we have never seen since the 1930s. About 20 to 40 million eviction cases are currently pending. The financial cliff is not here. We're over the financial cliff. Economists say that stimulus is required in great sums, not limited sums. Literally dripping little sums of stimulus, mere little $1,200 checks here is not enough. All the major economies of Europe are doing incredible things for their citizens. Stimulus checks every month. Eviction moratoriums till 2021. They're doing incredible stuff, and we're doing nothing. Nothing, which is causing one to wonder, do these people really want economic collapse? Because at this point, you're facing it like you can't imagine. Ultimately, a lot of people say that stimulus has acquired incredible amounts, and I'm not talking about big business. I'm not talking about stupid plans like PPP that don't work. I'm talking about eviction moratoriums, hazard pay, rent, stimulus checks every single month, and yet no one seems to be able to get it right. Sheila, I'm dealing with the faith that God wants to keep this going. Jeff Hansen, good morning, LA. I'm loving these morning updates. Thank you. Well, thank you for supporting this channel every single week, Jeff. I really appreciate it. Henry Gray, this whole thing makes you feel like a dog begging for something. It really does. Debbie, what? Do they only meet for an hour a day? They can't spend 8 hours a day in these meetings to get them resolved? Very well said, Debbie. You know, when they're on the congressional floor, they're not negotiating, they're just bickering. They only have 4 people they're negotiating. Mark, on the Republican side, Mark Meadows, who's the Republican, who is the White House chief of staff, for this week. Mnuchin, who drafted the bill. And on the Democrat side, you have Schumer and Pelosi. And yet, they can't seem to be able to get this done. Teresa S., the cost of living in New York versus Nebraska versus Oro, Alabama is quite different. $1,200 is peanuts in New York. Very well said. Ultimately, the problem is, and we sit here right now, is that these people saw this coming. It's not like this just happened today. We were owed multiple checks in the spring. We were not delivered the multiple checks. And then we knew there was going to be a second stimulus package, come May. That's when the HEROES Act was done. Well, the HEALS Act came just literally this Monday after weeks of delay, but what were the Republicans doing for months? Now here we are, and the Republicans aren't really even sure what's in their own bill. They think there's things in their bill that's not there. And all these congressmen schedule things to expire while they're on the vacation. Unemployment expired while they're on vacation. Moratoriums expired while they're on vacation. FPUC expired while they're on vacation. All these things expired while they're gone. So here we are. We're back. We're finally back from vacation. We got less than 2 weeks now. A week and a half before you go on another vacation. And guess what they're doing? Nothing. Join me tomorrow morning for Mornings with LALATE, coming up later tonight on Evenings with LALATE, EIDL loans, which apparently a lot of people are now considering to getting loans. This channel saw an enormous surge of people now applying for loans that had never applied for loans before because they fear this pandemic is getting worse and that Congress is doing very little. So if you're among those viewers, join me later, right after this video, for EIDL as Evenings with LALATE continues. As always, have a good one.